Well, good morning. This is Moti Gambard. We're here on our podcast on March 16 with Norine Boehmer.
Yep.
She is a fiduciary in the state, licensed fiduciary in the state of California for over 20 years. Am I correct?
Correct.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And what we're going to do is we're going to have a little chat about what your responsibilities are, what is a fiduciary. I'm sure a lot of the audience that will be listening to this don't even know. They heard the term, but they don't know really what you do. So it'd be nice to kind of sort of educate them. So why don't we start by give us a little information about this to what is it that you do on a daily basis? What is a fiduciary or a conservator in your role?
So a fiduciary is known as a trusted person. Under the rules, the probate rules in the state of California, a fiduciary can have many hats. One as a trustee, as a conservator, as a power of attorney for health care, as a administrator of a decedent's trust, all different areas of the law that allows us to basically help people. We are also act as successor trustees.
What a successor trustee meaning when somebody passes, you become a successor. Is that what a successor trustee is?
Well, it means that when they were alive, they have children that they don't want to have to deal with their trust when they pass.
Okay.
They give their children a gift. They name me or somebody like me, so that all of the arguments that happen in a family after these things are gone don't happen, because you do exactly what that trust says.
So you just follow instructions.
Right.
In the trust.
Right, and then the children can be upset about other things and mourn their parents as opposed to arguing about what's going on. Okay.
So speaking of a trust, can you tell me a little bit about, I get asked a lot about, so we have residents that come here, and a lot of them, some do, some don't have a trust or advance directives. Can you tell me a little bit about the difference between what a trust is versus a will and versus nothing at all? And what are the pros and cons of each one of these?
So all of those things, a trust and a will, are considered estate planning. ESTATE, estate. And the estate planning, having a trust, it says, this is what I want to happen when I pass. I want this child to get this, I want this child to get this, and this is how the trust is going to work. I want a specific gift to go to this child or relative or friend. That's what a trust does, and it allows you to avoid probating your assets in the court. A will supports probating your assets in a court. When somebody passes, the fiduciary petitions the court to become the administrator, or if they're named in the will as the executor rather, they become, and you have to file it with the court, and then you go forward with doing pretty much everything the will says, just like you would with a trust. A trust is less expensive. Wills end up costing percentages of fees.
So a will is less expensive to establish, but is more expensive after the fact.
Absolutely.
So return on an investment, it would be more, you would recommend having a trust in place. This way you avoid probate.
Right. I would recommend having a trust, and I would also recommend it for purposes of specifics. Trusts are able to be more specifics than wills are, because they have a broader view.
So what happens if an individual has a trust, that individual passes, but he or she never transferred any of his estate into the trust?
Well, if there is a pour-over will within the trust, which is a legal term, then that can go into the trust. All of the assets could, after the fact, be part of the trust. The other choice is, if they intended to transfer them, if you could prove that, it's called a Hegstead petition. You file it with the court and say, look, they did this before they passed. It was very clear they wanted to put their house in this trust. It was very clear they wanted to put this in the trust, and get the court to approve it. If they do, then you move forward with it.
So that's kind of a security in case.
It is.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What happens if they don't have a will nor a trust?
Well, they die intestate, it's called. And if they die intestate, then whatever the rules, probate rules are about who receives what, like a wife would receive X amount of money, and they had children, they would receive an X percentage. There's all kinds of rules around that.
So what's the hierarchy? Somebody who dies intestate, what's the hierarchy of transferring the estate? Let's say a married couple, husband and a wife. Husband dies. Is it the wife? Is it the kids? Is it, or his brother? What is the order?
The order is the wife,
First.
children, brothers, sisters, and with a wife, for instance, we have a client who the wife is the second marriage, okay, and he doesn't have a will, so she gets 2/3 of the estate, and the children get 1/3 of it. That's how it works in the probate.
Oh, okay.
So it's split. If she were the first wife, she might get all of it, depending on what's going on.
Basically, but if there is a trust, can the trust? So how shall I say it? So if there's a trust and the individual names, let's say he says, I want the money or my estate to go all to my wife or all to my brother or all to my kids, avoiding the hierarchy of transfer of the estate. Can that be done or not?
Absolutely. And there's different kinds of trusts, and you probably want to, I'm not a lawyer, so you probably want a lawyer to explain the different kinds of trusts. But there are trusts where the first to die, that part of their estate becomes irrevocable then. You can't change that trust without going to court. The second part of it, it's like, say, the wife, then she has half of that trust, and she can still change it. But the other half, his half, has to be dealt with
through the courts.
Through the courts. If you want to change it, if you don't want to change it, then it's not a problem.
Okay, that's good. That's good information. So about a week ago, somebody texted me and they told me, somebody in this industry. He's an executive director in a large-scale community on the East Coast. And he texted me and he says, hey, Moti, you have to watch, it's on Netflix, I Care a Lot, the movie or a special thing that they did. So I said, interesting, okay, I'll watch it, So I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. And I must tell you that in the beginning, I was like furious. What was happening with this old lady, and I mean, at the end of the movie, I think it started kind of a fiction and all that stuff. But the first half, I would say, people who do not know this industry, who are not familiar with this industry, will think that these fiduciaries, like that lady, was a bunch of crooks. That's what he told me. He says, don't you think that's the perception that people would get if they don't know this? Now, I know the industry. I work with many fiduciaries. I've been doing this for many years. So I know that that's not really what it is. But a random individual out there that just watches this, he would get really freaked out. So what would you tell us about this? I know that California is very strict. You guys are all licensed. You all have, I don't know, some reporting to do or steps to follow. What would you say about that movie?
I would say that I don't.
First of all, did you see it?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yes, I watched it, and actually, the ending made me laugh a lot.
Yeah. A lot of people told me, good ending.
Yeah, it was interesting. I would say in the state of California, I don't think that could really happen.
And why is that?
Well, one of the things in the movie that they didn't cover is where was the proposed conservatee's counsel? There was no lawyer representing her. At least in Los Angeles and in the rest of the state, anytime somebody is going to be conserved or guardian, a guardian, in California we call it conservatorship, whenever anybody's going to have a guardian, you have to have your own lawyer appointed by the court to represent your wants and needs. There was no lawyer.
Is that what they call a PVP?
Now they're called CACs, court-appointed counsel.
CACs, no more PVP.
No, they used to be called that, but the term in probate is court-appointed counsel.
Okay.
So there was no court-appointed counsel. The other thing was the judge was absolutely taking everybody's word for what was going on and stuff, and even a new judge knows better than that. And I doubt seriously if they would have moved forward like that. There also was this had to be a really big conspiracy to make this work. You had to have a facility person, you had to have a doctor, you had to have a fiduciary, and you had to have a judge. I mean, all four of these people had to all agree. So, and in fact, that did happen in Nevada.
It did happen.
Something similar, not the exact same, but something similar, did happen in Nevada. And they've now revamped their entire system in Nevada because of a person who is now in jail, by the way, a fiduciary in Nevada that's now in jail. Fiduciaries in California, just to talk a little bit about what you said about licensing. We're licensed by the state of California. We're required to do 15 hours of continuing education every year. We are.
Is that what PFAC is?
Well, PFAC does the education.
That does education.
It's an association. It's the Association for Fiduciaries in the state of California. And because of all those requirements, and because anybody can complain to the bureau, fiduciary bureau, and basically say this person did this and this and this, and they investigate it. Had anything like that been present in that movie, this would never have been happening because they would have run it to ground. In some ways, it's hard on fiduciaries because fiduciaries have a huge liability in this business, much more than attorneys ever have.
Really?
Because we are touching every part of somebody's life. And how many people do you know that want some stranger coming in and saying, I'm taking over your life?
No, not many.
No, nobody does.
I always put myself in their shoes.
Right.
I say, that's not a good thing.
Right.
Actually, people, some of my friends, when I told them to watch the movie, they told me, oh my God, that's a good business.
It is a good business,
But according to the way the movie kind of said it, it's a very screwed up business.
Well, I got really worried. The part of the movie I got worried about was that they turned it into a national company.
They're a national company, publicly traded.
Well, right.
I was like, whoa.
And I'm worried about federal legislation. There's very little federal legislation about this because it's very specific to the state. There is some federal legislation.
So do you want there to be federal legislation or you don't want it?
Well, in California, I would say I don't want it because it might be in conflict with what we have. That's always a problem with legislation,
California is always stricter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are the biggest group of fiduciaries in the United States in California.
Well, we have a lot of old people here.
Yes.
What about Florida?
Florida, I think that's where the movie was centered or something like that.
But they also have a big elderly population.
I'm not sure what they have. I know Arizona has licensing for fiduciaries. The state of Arizona has it. I don't know what Florida has.
Okay.
But you're right, they have a big population.
Yeah, I think Florida, so California is the number one, Florida is 2, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, Arizona is number 3.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, you used to be, for 2 years, the president of PFAC.
Yes, I was the state president of PFAC.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? First of all, can you tell us a little bit about PFAC and then what your role was in it?
Okay. The Professional Fiduciary Association of California. It's been in existence. Last year was our 25th year. It was created out of 3 different entities in the state of California that became one. As you might guess, it covers the whole state, so there's a lot of distance. So they had a group in Santa Clara pretty much, and then they had a group in San Diego and in Los Angeles, and ultimately they all came together and created one association. We've gone from, when I started, there was about maybe 50 members. We're now at 600.
Oh, wow. It's growing.
Yeah.
And it's needed.
Right, it is. The state of California, as I said, licenses us, and the members have to go through a rigorous background check. They have to go through, as I said, anybody can complain to the Bureau. The ethics that are involved in this are much higher than any other entity. We're licensed by the Consumer Affairs Department of Consumer Affairs through the Fiduciary Bureau. We don't have. They unfortunately are able to exist because of our fees every year, but we don't have enough people doing background check, or not doing background, but doing all the work to help the people, the consumer, get the information they're looking for. And PFAC has been supportive of, as I said, of fiduciaries for 25 years.
What year were you the president?
12 and 13, 2 years.
12 and 13.
I was the unusual one because we had kind of a mix up and stuff, so I ended up staying 2 years, and I was actually glad I did, because it's kind of like being president of the United States. You're there for 4 years and you're just getting started. So I was there for a year and we were just getting started.
Usually it's 1 year?
Yeah.
So every year they change the president? Of the PFAC, I'm talking about PFAC.
Yeah, usually.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you were there 2 years?
2, yeah.
Nice. So any success stories you want to share with us? Personal, or being a president, or anything in your professional life as a fiduciary?
We have some success stories that we have a client that's here at RAYA'S Paradise. It's a success story. She was involved in the movies many years ago. She was injured falling to in a bus accident. She came to me for help. I ended up becoming her conservator. She was thrown to the floor in a bus. What do you mean thrown on the floor in the bus? What does that mean? A bus stopped and she was thrown.
So not somebody pushed her.
Right. And we were able to get a settlement from the MTA for $1 million for her. And she now has lived for many years that she wouldn't have lived before because of our ability to help her and to give her the things she needed.
Nice.
Fiduciaries are resource people. You just got to have the right resources and bring them in. It's like
bring them to your client.
It's like a chess game.
Yep.
It is. It's like a chess game.
Nice, very nice. Well, I'm glad that your client is at RAYA'S Paradise.
Yes.
Anything else that you would? So this really concludes our podcast. But before I conclude it, is there anything else that you would like to share? Anything? There's whether it's about clients, your professional life, about anything that you would like to share with us that will make this more interesting.
I think as we're dealing with baby boomers, I always say the children have become the parents and the parents have become the children. Just make sure your parents are not taken advantage of. Make sure that people look out for them. Make sure you look out for them. And ask for a professional's help, You don't need to know everything. You're not required to know everything in life, but you are required to know somebody that does.
Yeah.
So go to a fiduciary.
Good.
Okay.
Norine, thank you very much. Again, this is Norine Boehmer with Boehmer & Associate.
Norine Boehmer Management.
Norine Boehmer Management. We will have all your information posted, and so people know how to reach out if they have any questions. Thank you very much. It was nice chatting with you. It was nice having a podcast with you, and I'm sure I'll see you around.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.